So let's see then. Hopefully people are able to see a screen right now. I hope that you are. So yeah, this webinar today is around, of course, some Microsoft 365 and teamwork and collaboration aspects of it. And please, if anybody has any thoughts pre-hand, if you can't see my screen or if there is anything at all, please just write in the chat. But once again, this webinar is being recorded so that we can then, of course, go back and so that people can view this afterhand if they don't have the opportunity to join here today. But anyways, my name is Sebastian Lennartsson and I am the commercial trainer for Microsoft here in Nordics. So I conduct all types of trainings around Microsoft 365 and our product offering within Windows and so on and so forth. But today I'm really excited to talk to you about collaboration, because what we have seen today or in this this year that is currently on its coming to an end, we've seen some huge changes, of course, and we see a very big need of being productive no matter where you are. And there we see a huge potential in, of course, Microsoft 365. Let's see then. So when we talk about productivity, there is, of course, a million different alternatives, and there is so much that could be said. But what we would like to focus on today is, of course, productivity within smaller organizations, such as your clientele within the SMB segment. And first and foremost, we just want to check in with the why, what, and how of this productivity overall goal, so to speak. Because it is important to talk about Microsoft 365 and productivity. We, of course, want everybody to be as productive as possible. And it's just not just an overall goal of ours, but it's something that is crucial to succeed within your business. So why do we want to talk about it? Well, why we want to talk about Microsoft 365 first and foremost is because there is a huge asymmetry in information. Customer expectations does not align to what we're actually offering. And as we can see here, this is just a good example of this, that actually 80% of customers realize only after the PC purchase that Office apps were not included within the device. And what does this mean for you? Well, of course, that means that there's a huge potential to, when you talk about customers, to sell Office and 365 subscriptions, because what we know is that they're gonna purchase it somehow. It's just a matter of, are they gonna get their new device and be disappointed, or are they going to hear it from you first? And also when looking into what different aspect of end of support and so on and so forth, it's also important just to be on top of what is going on there. So a really good advice is just talking to your customers about the products and what we're offering. But what we hear then very commonly is that people are very happy with their current devices. So we believe that we're showing them something that is so good, but they feel like, nah, I'm fine with what I have. And this, of course, is something that we're really proud of, and it's a very good grade for our products that we've produced in the past. But just as if you have a touchscreen phone right now, when previously you've only been using, the ordinary button phone, and if you've never tried the touch interface, you don't know what you're missing out on. So once again, it's just very important to talk about with the customer around our product offering and what we can actually do for them and what this means in the end of the bottom line of their business and how it can actually affect their results. So that's what we're gonna aim to get a little bit more knowledge around today. What is actually the main offer when it comes to collaboration and teamwork, and how do we make this really pop in the eyes of the customers, so that we go out there, they feel like, okay, I'm happy with my current version, but I do want to upgrade, because that, I'd say, is the overall target. Well, first and foremost, once again, we're battling this asymmetry in information, because in reality, only 50% of all customers are aware that the M365 subscription can be used on multiple devices. And this means for you, when talking to customers, you have a huge possibility to just speak about the basics, and they'll probably be surprised. So M365, as you know, it's an annual recurrent fee, so that it's a subscription package, but it's not only a way for us to offer a subscription. It's so much more than that. It's a semi-cloud solution enabling small and medium businesses to be just as efficient and achieve what has only been allocated to these huge corporations in the past. So there's some huge benefits that I will come into, but that this SMB segment and your customers actually could have by signing up for an M365 subscription via you, instead of only having their old Office 2010 or 2013 or whatever they might have. And it's also the fact that they get the cloud space, so that many customers, for example, they pay for their cloud storage from one partner, they have their meetings on another platform from another partner, and then they have the Office suite. But this means that they're actually putting their data in risk at the end of the day, because in many cases, you might do your research, you might make sure that you get an approved and secure platform that you work with. But we can't guarantee that unless it's on Microsoft 365. It's just a way of making it easier for customers who want to be on the cloud, but still understand the importance of being compliant and secure in their environment. So Microsoft 365 just makes it a lot easier for customers to go a little bit more towards the cloud. And then of course that the M365 account can be shared between different users. So for example, if you have a customer that right now might only be one employee, but are having perhaps a scale-up plan to have another part-time employee or having a subcontractor, well, then the M365 is a great package, because then they could actually use the same account, for example, collaborating on Excels or PowerPoints, and just gaining that extra efficiency, which is so important in today's environment. So to tie this together, we just want to talk about personal and organizational productivity. And these, traditionally, we've only been talking about personal productivity, because traditionally all we had was the employee as a standalone unit. The only time we actually exchanged ideas were at the coffee machine and in a meeting. And all that important information that the employee might have had, the best practices, the obstacles, the how-tos, well, it was all in the head of the employee. And the organizational productivity, on the other hand, well, that's the overall performance. And it's really easy to define organization as some sort of corporation. But that, of course, as you know, is not the fact. The organization is everything from a single carpenter that has a subcontractor to a hair salon, whatever it might be. The organization is when two people collaborate, in my opinion. And that's where we want to tie these two together. We want the personal productivity to become organizational productivity by sharing ideas, by sharing best practices, and by sharing how-tos with your peers and others that you might collaborate with within your organization. And that does not define to the single company, of course. So how do we do this? Well, we do this, of course, via the collaboration and teamwork. And what we've seen in this recent year, of course, is that the teamwork has not been able to take place physically. We had to move it to other platforms. And this, of course, puts new demands on how do we actually make the meeting relevant, and how do we make it so that it actually has a good takeout. Because I don't think I'm alone when I'm saying this. There are a lot of meetings, and a few of them, to say the least, could actually be concluded in an email instead of the traditional meeting. But of course, we want to have meetings, we want to exchange ideas, and that is where Teams comes in and just makes the meeting better, because that's our overall target, and we're constantly launching new ideas on how to actually make a meeting better. And I'm going to show you a few of them right now. So first and foremost, Microsoft Teams. What is it that it does? Well, it's the hub for meetings and teamwork and chats and collaboration in the 365 package. So we're offering the customers a platform where they can collaborate on ideas, they can discuss things, both personal and private and job related, whatever they like, but it is most importantly in a secure environment, so that the users know that they are on a secure environment and everything they do is compliant to the Datainspektionens laws such as GDPR in Europe and such. So everything is in a secure environment, which is super important because it's always necessary to be precautious when handling your own and customers' data. So I highly recommend doing that on a safe platform, of course. What you can do, of course, is that you can chat and you can create, so you can chat with employees, so you can chat with partners or whoever it might be. And then you can have it all, instead of having the email thread and having the meeting, then you'll be like, okay, what was it? What did I need to prepare? Well, it's so much easier when you have it all in the same place. So in the chat, you have the relevant information for the relevant project, and then you have the relevant team for the relevant project within or outside your organization. But you make sure that it's all on a platform where the information is protected and secure, so that you can focus on doing business better. And then we have the app integration, so that you can use, for example, Word as seen here, or that you can use Excel or PowerPoint. And that goes both prior and during, as well as after the meeting, so that when you prepare, for example, a product pitch, well, instead of just sitting with each having a PowerPoint on a computer and then having a meeting via some meeting platform and then uploading it to a cloud provider, instead just do it all in Teams. And I have a very good example of this. Last week I was having this webinar and everything crashed. Something happened and I could not access Teams. I could not access my computer. I tried accessing Teams on my phone and nothing happened. So the only thing I could do, well, was to restart my phone and then try again accessing Teams. In the normal scenario, I would have to email the presentation to myself, or perhaps go into my cloud provider, try to find it. There's a lot of hassles. We're talking 10 plus minutes. But via using Microsoft 365, I instead could just press the share button from my phone, and I could share whichever PowerPoint or spreadsheet that I'd like. They were all there because I have everything on my OneDrive. So it's just a way of making business go by more smoothly. And that's what we want to achieve with Teams. And there's a lot of features that are just making it easier to achieve more. So for example, if you're a small organization, you might not think that you have the need of reaching 10,000 people. But I'd say that that's exactly what you need to do and what you should be doing, because Teams Live is really a big scale operation. It's something that is used, for example, in the NBA. If you look at where the people normally sit, there's only screens. And via Teams Live, we're powering a solution so that we actually get the sensation that there is an audience sitting there watching the game. And it's just a great tool for even small companies to reach a bigger audience with their message. So Teams Live is a tool that's actually in many cases implemented in this huge things, but it can be used in these smaller perspectives as well, so that the SMBs, even if you're a carpenter, then you can go live and you can tell what you're doing and how you're doing it, and just get the attention of customers, generating new businesses. And that's all included, so you don't have to pay for another type of solution. All you have to do is use a M365 account. And then, of course, super important, and I've already touched upon it today, it's the security and compliance, because we want to make sure that every data that passes through on our company is secure. We can't afford loose ends. And you know GDPR is very rigid around this. And that's why we've created this really bulletproof software, which is Microsoft 365 Business Standard. And it's not even an extra, but it's something that is just there. So for example, you have this built-in security and compliance portal that you can use, so that you can make sure, if you're the IT pro at the company or in charge of the security, or even if you're just the CEO or founder, then you want to make sure, how is the intranet looking and how secure are we right now? And that you can do via the security portal that is included. So you just get a manageability, even if you're not a pro at using IT security software prior. We just make it a little bit easier for them to use, just so that they can know and rest assured that they're compliant to GDPR and all things alike. So Microsoft Teams, just to conclude, it's all about preparing for meetings in the best way possible by having these insights, by checking the chat, see what's new, and looking and collaborating on documents. And then with the meeting, during the meeting, that you want to make sure that everybody gets to put out their ideas and make sure that everything is heard, and that you actually pick up on all the ideas within an organization. And of course the notes, the traction, and the follow-up that is combined to the after aspects of a meeting. So here you can see just some of the unique selling points, and that's where we are with Microsoft Teams. We want to make the meetings even more efficient, because we can see that people's calendars are booking up. There's only more and more meetings and less interest. So we want to make sure that those meetings that are necessary, let's make them as good as possible in all ways possible, so that we can achieve more through a day, instead of just the ordinary talk that could be concluded via an email. So that's what Team is all about. And then the second aspect, which is SharePoint. And SharePoint for many could be perceived as just a portal where you download Word and Excel and everything. At least for myself, I actually worked with HP prior to this, and that was probably the only time I used SharePoint, was when I was supposed to download Excel and PowerPoint and Word. I did not realize the huge potential in this platform, and I think many customers out there are also missing out. So SharePoint, what is it really? Well, first I'm just going to start off with this small video to show you a little bit about SharePoint. So we want it to be more than just a portal where you download the apps you need. We want it to be the collaborative tools that organization could have to succeed in their operations. For example, you can create groups, as you see here in the movie, where you, for example, upload relevant files for the specific group, the subgroup within a company. As seen here, it's the sales group. And then you could also have these alerts, so that you know what's going on and if anybody's updating the documents, because SharePoint is all about collaboration, all about having relevant documents across all devices. So for example, let's see in here, somebody's updating the document, then of course you can receive a notification, so that if you're perhaps have some sort of internal guidelines, well, then you know if there's any change in them, you'll get an email instead of having to go check and see, okay, no changes. So that's what SharePoint is all about, just making sure that you can collaborate and keep relevant documents so that everybody who's entitled and should have access to these documents can have access to them. So you make sure that you can achieve more within your organization. But it's not only that. It's also that we want to create a platform where companies can share and collaborate internally so that they know that they can achieve more and that they can pick up on things and help each other on documents in a way that has not priorly been possible. For example, I mentioned that I was using OneDrive and that I therefore was able to put up my presentation on Teams once again. And I don't only use OneDrive, but I also use SharePoint because let's say in a dilemma where I instead end up in hospital, let's hope nobody does that, but in case I do, well, wouldn't it be great if my colleagues then could access what I was doing and how far I've been progressing without even having to ask me to go from the hospital bed and send them an email with all the PowerPoint slides or the spreadsheets or whatever I was up to. Instead, via having SharePoint, we make sure that we keep the information of the organization within the organization, so that we can help each other, we can pick up on ideas, and we can achieve more and make sure that we stay focused and stay cutting edge in all of our operations. And that's also super important to know because, for example, with SharePoint, you can spread ideas. You can pick up on perhaps how your employees are doing or what they think are obstacles within what they're doing. You can just have all of that directly on SharePoint to make sure that you harvest all of the ideas and make the most out of your organization so that you, for example, both improve profitability and efficiency, but also the very important aspects of keeping track of how employees and coworkers are doing. Because when you don't see them and when you don't meet them, as we haven't been able to do in recent days, well, then it's super important to just have a platform where you can still interact and where you can still get that very necessary feedback from an organizational perspective. So that's what SharePoint is all about. And why they need it, of course, is because they can transform their business processes via using this type of platform. Instead of just having everything locally and every employee working on their own case in their own path, you can instead intertwine the paths, exchange ideas, and make sure that you achieve more together. And of course, as I said, it's all about engaging and informing organization as well, so that you get feedback and can also send out feedback and updates on what's going on. So SharePoint in all essence is actually an intranet for the employees as a private platform for employees only, but you could also have it across organizations if you, for example, are collaborating with others, so that you can make sure that you create platforms where you can exchange ideas and all of this that I've already mentioned. And it's also, of course, about getting access on the go. For example, if you're out on a business trip and you realize that you have to start working on something, or that your colleague is sharing something with you, well, then you can do it from any device at any time. And that's just a huge potential in SharePoint that's really good. So with that being said, I'd say that we actually concluded it in a very simple and short way. We have the personal productivity traditionally, but we want to tie it up with the organizational productivity. And that is exactly what Microsoft 365 could do for your customers. Just make sure that they can achieve more, even if they're only one employee at this time being. They hopefully have a plan to expand and perhaps take in a subcontractor or whatever it could be. So great tool, both Teams and SharePoint, and it's all included in the Microsoft 365 suite, which just provides a huge value for your customers. But with that being said, I could bet you that you'd probably meet this reply in the many of times. You've proven everything that is so good about Teams and SharePoint and Microsoft 365 in general. But they often come back and conclude, well, that's cool, but I have an old version that's good enough for me. And that kind of brings me back to where I started, talking about having a phone with a button interface instead of the touch interface. Of course, without actually putting it to use, I wouldn't understand the benefits of the touch interface. And that in some ways is also where Microsoft 365 is, because many customers don't realize that they're actually already using cloud-based services. Perhaps they have a provider for where they storage all of their photos or their email on cloud, so that when they get a new phone, it automatically updates without them having to do a lot or connect it to their computer. So it's all about just reassuring them what's the pro of this software and how is it of great value, because if we look at it, it's actually a lot of software for a very good price point. So Microsoft 365 just provides this extra value and makes sure that they can achieve more, because they often don't think about how much they actually would use this kind of tool before they start using it. So my ambition, of course, is that, well, instead of looking at a good enough solution, let's look at a good solution so that you can achieve more and you can flourish your business in whatever area you're doing business. With that being said, the final note of today is just something that's called Office Attach Widget, because Office is a very broad product offering. And we all know that there are many different aspects of Office, and that could be quite hard for customers to navigate within. So that when customers, as I said previously, 80% of them will buy a computer thinking Office is included. And that means for you that either the customer comes back realizing, whoops, it didn't have Office, okay, kind of disappointed, it's kind of a hassle, but they can't get started when they wanted to. They'll have to first get Office. It's just not a very pleasant customer experience. What we are offering for free is something that we call Office Attach Widget, and it's implemented. It's a really simple implementation that we offer for free, as I said, and it means that on your SKU, there's on every SKU or the ones that you choose, there's this widget, which when you hover it, you get this SKU finder that shows you relevant SKUs so that customers know that they need to buy Office and what Office you're recommending for this said customer. So it's a very nice implementation, and we've actually seen that in the cases where we've implemented this, sale go up 44 to 47%. I don't remember which one it was, but one of those two. And that is not a bad number. But first and foremost, I'd also like to think about just the customer experience, which this heavily improves. So if you're interested in this and want to increase your sales, I highly recommend that you contact Evelina on Microsoft, and you can see her email right here. So just write that down and contact her if you're interested in this, because it's a great attach for your website just to make the customer journey a little bit better, a little bit smoother, and make sure that you get all of the business. Because let's not forget, if we lose them to a search engine like Bing or Google, there is the possibility that they might even choose a competitor to you to buy the Office from. So with that said, there are a lot of things, and Microsoft product offering is very broad. If you want to know more, there's this platform called Expert Zone. I've put in a QR. If you'd rather have the URL, URL, sorry, it's expertzone.microsoft.com, or just scan the URL and you'll get immediately on there. And this platform is all about helping you achieve more. So we put out curated information. It's everything from server to Windows 10 to Microsoft 365 and Office, so that you know that the information you're taking part of is relevant for you. So if you go on there and register, I promise you won't regret it, because it's so much easier than going to a search engine to find the latest information. Here, everything is curated, everything is relevant, and it's all delivered in a very, very easy to digest but informative way. And we're also actually having some competitions on Expert Zone and giveaways. So if you register, you can do a module, and then you will be enabled to register for a giveaway, which is very nice. So I highly recommend this platform if you scan the QR. But with that being said, I can see that I've actually ran out of time. So I'd like to say thank you everyone for attending. If there's any questions, I will happily stay on. But other than that, a huge thank you for participating. And I hope you found today's topic relevant. Next week, we'll have another webinar, and that'll be a more technical session around this same area. So SharePoint and Teams, but a more technical approach on how do we actually get them on board? How do we get them started? And what are some common fall pits to avoid? So thank you all for taking time and joining me here today. And I wish you a wonderful end of this week.